Alright, in this video I'm going to explain the differences between the CJAA and the CBEA engines. Perhaps you have a CBEA and you have an oil pump problem. That's common. Anyway, we're going to talk about that, the differences in the two engines. There are some subtle but definite important differences if you're going to do an engine swap. These are the things to know for that. This is a CBE. We're going to call it CBE and CJAA. That's actually the name of the engine. The other A is actually for the horsepower. So CBE engines have a balance shaft module in the oil pan, and this is the oil pump here, and it has a hex shaft inside of it that goes around and becomes a problem for you. If you've got that problem, you already know about that probably, and you want to probably change to a CJA because they're more readily available. But there are some differences. So if you have a CBE and you have not changed your hex shaft, you might want to stop driving the car as soon as you can and make sure that the hex shaft has been either replaced with a new longer hex shaft is one of the options. The other option is do a BSM delete, balance shaft module delete. So if you look those things up, BSM delete, you can find that on TDI Club. You'll find a kit that you can buy and replace that balance shaft module with what's basically in the CJA engine. So number one, the CJA does not have a balance shaft in it. So these have a very slightly more vibration, I believe, than the other one, and that's probably why that they put them in the Audi. Also in the first year TDI common rail diesel. So in 2009 they put them in the Jettas, and in I think maybe the early 2010, I'm not sure because I'm getting different information on that right now as I've been looking at parts. So in the 2010, 11, 12, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and I think 14, Audi A3, they also have the same CBE engine. So if you have one of those cars, check your engine code. Make sure if you do have a CBE, get that balance shaft module deleted, or the new hex shaft style with the longer hex shaft put in. I would just the longer hex shaft, I would get rid of the balance module. In my opinion, it's a bad idea to keep that, but that's just my opinion. So anyway, we'll get on with the video here. The big difference between the CBE and the CJA is basically the wiring harness I found is completely the same. This is a CJA engine. This is a CBE car. So basically the wiring harness is the same, except for one very small thing. On the wiring harness on the CBE, this is your coolant temperature sensor. On the CBE engine, it's up here. Okay, so the coolant sensor wire is in a different position. So if you were to use your, like for instance, you could use your CBE wiring harness, which I wouldn't recommend. If you can find one with a good wiring harness, that's a better idea, but because it's a lot of work to change. But you could use your CBE and then extend the wires and put this little extension piece in, or buy this hose, which this is the part number right here for the Gates hose, which is a lot cheaper than one at the dealer. And the Gates hose comes with all of this thing here. So this is different on the CJA engine. So this is a CJA engine. It has this thing located here. Again, the CBE is back here. The other thing that's a big difference between the two engines, of course, again, it doesn't have a balance shaft module. It has a different hose here. It also has a different thermostat. Now, one of the problems with the CJA is the thermostat. The thermostat housing is kind of odd. Let's see if I have one off the car. This is a CJA thermostat. Now that's really weird, isn't it? Now you might say, oh, I'd like to see my CBE thermostat on my CJA engine. Not possible. The actual differences are this is a CBE over here, and if you can see, there's a lip right here on the thermostat housing that is not available on the CJA. So the CJA is a wide open spot, and it's designed for this opening right here. So when you have you can't swap them between the other. Then there are some other differences. So if you're buying like a bare bones CJAA and thinking that you can just go ahead and use a bare bones motor, you're going to want to make sure that you get one with all the accessories on it. So because there's a lot of other differences. So this is different. Okay, this is coolant pipe is different. The coolant pipe system is different on the CJAA and the CBE. Okay, so you can't use your same coolant pipe or your thermostat. This is a thermostat from a CBE. This is a thermostat from a CJAA. That's how different they are. This is CBE. That's a CJAA. This is the thermostat. So this is all, and it's very difficult to replace. So one of the disadvantages of the CJAA is this thermostat housing. To get this out, you have to remove your oil filter housing. You have to remove this coolant pipe. Basically, you have to go to service position on the car. This is service position. All this front part comes off, including you have to take the Freon out of the system. Yes, you have to take the Freon out. It's a pain in the ass. So to get that part out, you have to take off you have to take off this coolant pipe, which is behind here. You can't see it right now. I know I got light issues right now. I'm going to try to get back up a little further. Right here, behind in here, the coolant pipe is behind there. It is different on the CJAA. Okay, the CJAA has a different coolant pipe. It has this additional pipe here. So you need to get in, this housing here is different. Okay, so this housing, the housing for the top hose has an extra pipe on it. If you notice, that's different. So it has a different pipe there. So if you get an engine that's complete, it's not bare bones, it has to be pretty complete with all the parts on it. It's not a hard swap. It actually just goes right in the same thing. Now, the only thing is, a lot of times when you buy the engine, say if you bought one on eBay or something like that, they don't come with the lower hose. That, again, that is a part number for the Gates hose. It comes complete. All the way, what you see right here is how the Gates hose comes, and it's about a little less than half the price of the one at the dealer. Another part that you're going to need if you're going to do the engine swap is you need this hose right here. So this is the hose from the CBE right here. It goes from the coolant reservoir over to a pipe that sticks out right here. Again, the coolant pipe is different on it, on the CJAA. So it would normally go on about right here. So you need to get this one from the dealer. I don't have the part number for it. The list price on it's about $35 from the dealer. There's places online that sell for about $25. So this hose, if it looks familiar, if you see it has this bracket on it, it's the only one that has that bracket. You can find it by just looking at that. Is different. So you want the one for the 2011 and newer engine. Okay, because if you look up 2010, sometimes there's a split thing in there. Sometimes it comes up with this, with a different hose. So I'm not sure, maybe the 2010 CJAs were a little bit different. I don't know. Or they had CBEs a couple of maybe months into 2010. So those are things to be aware of. Make sure that you get a CJAA. If you want one, get the CJAA. Make sure it is the right engine. So 2011 and up, this hose, if you look it up, you will find the right one. It's a little bit different than this. The difference is it looks like this hose, but it's a little bit longer, and you can't use this one. It's just a little bit too short. So you'd have to kind of stretch it if you tried to use it. It might work, but you'd probably end up getting a rupture in it because it'd be stretched too tight. Volkswagen doesn't like anything that's not perfect. So anyway. Okay, so those are the subtle differences. Basically, we'll go through again. This lower hose is different. The thermostat housing different. The pipe that goes behind here is different. It has this hose right here. This little bypass hose is not on the CJAA or CBE. It's not on there. Okay, so it has this bracket, this hose, this thing, but everything else is basically the same. Most of the internal parts are the same. Most of the external parts are the same. The only thing that's different is basically these hoses and pipes here that I found, and the wiring harness, because the wiring harness has a different length for this wire right here, which again you could just cut and splice, start a shrink tube that pipe and use it on either engine, and you could swap that wiring harness back and forth. As far as I know, they are exactly the same. One of the things I did notice on mine is I did have a problem putting this in here. Now, maybe this plug is just ever so slightly different, and I had to kind of force it into place. I looked at it and made sure that, but it was these, there's these plastic pins in here, and they didn't quite line up. So I don't know if it was just, the harness I got, or if it was just maybe they're slightly different, but it did fit. It did have all the same wires, but it just was a little bit difficult to get in place. It did go all the way in, and it went into the same computer in 2009. Even though this is an MK5, it went into the same computer and had no issues there. So everything goes on it the same, except for basically the position of this and the thermostat and the pipes that attach to that. So anyway, decided to make this video in case you're trying to figure it out. I was trying to find this stuff online myself, and I couldn't find anything specific that would show me this stuff. I just saw comments and things that somebody said what's the same on them and what's different, but it didn't show any specifics. So if you're going to change your engine, you might want to order this hose. Make sure they have they have these at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Okay, you can get it from O'Reilly Auto Parts, or you can get it wherever, ID Parts or whatever. I think they had them. And you want to get one of these ordered from the dealer, the hose for that, so that you can get those in advance, because you know how it is. You got to order everything and wait and wait and wait. So you might want to get those ordered. If you're going to get an engine, while you're ordering your engine, go ahead and order that hose and the hose to the reservoir. So anyway, I'll talk to you in the next video. Hope that helped you out. I'll talk to you in the next video. Please like, share, and subscribe.